Hola clase, hoy vamos a hacer formal commands. And so it can be a little bit tricky at first, but like everything in Spanish, after a little bit of practice, it gets easier. I made you a great cheat sheet to follow along, so hopefully that will really help you. So vamos a practicar mucho. So most formal commands are formed by the following steps. So this is the really part that's a little bit tricky, but with practice, obviously we can do this. So the first thing you do when you're doing a formal command is put it in the yo form. So our first verb, doblar, which can mean to turn, to double, or to fold. For example, yo doblo mi ropa, I fold my clothes. Yo doblo a la derecha, I turn to the right. We put it in the yo form. So remember, you drop the AR. If it starts with yo, it ends in O. The next step is to drop the O. So now, of course, this is where it's a little bit tricky because we practiced so much time getting to know the endings of AR, ER, IR verbs. And now when we do commands, I'm going to tell you to do the opposite ending. So yes, that part's a little bit tricky, but it's definitely possible to remember because I've been able to do it. So our opposite endings for AR verbs are E or EN because formal commands can only be given in the third person, él, ella, usted, or the third person plural. Ellos, ellas, ustedes. So doblar would become doble or doblen. Okay, vamos a continuar. So comer, como, you drop the O, you would have C-O-M. And then the opposite endings for ER verbs are A-A-N. So can you put the command together? It would be coma or coman. Our next one, salir. So salir in the yo form, and we'll go over this again later in the lesson, and this is why it's important to put it in the yo form, is salgo. And you cannot get that form unless you put it in the yo. Drop the O, and you have salg. The opposite of an IR ending would be A or AN, and then you would have salga or salgan. Salir means to leave, so salga en tiempo, leave on time. Tomar is to drink or to take, in the yo form, tomo. That makes our stem T-O-M. The opposite ending of an AR verb is E or EN. So I would say tome or tomen. Estudiar, estudio, estud. The opposite ending, estudie or estudian. So estudie mucho su español. Study your Spanish. Vivir, for sure, you're going to be familiar with this. I say it all the time in person. Vivir becomes vivo. Vive, the opposite ending would be A or AN. So then you would have viva, vivan. So viva Mexico, long live Mexico. It's a command. All right, vamos a continuar, but hopefully you guys are getting the pattern of this. And with practice, you'll definitely be able to get the hang of it. And por supuesto, hay irregulares. Of course, we have irregulars here. If a verb has an irregular yo form in the present tense, just like we did before with salir, whether it's due to a stem change or some other irregularity, that same irregularity carries over to the formal command. So tener in the yo form would be tango. If we drop the O and we add the opposite ending, what do we get? Tenga, tengan. Muy bien. Let's do the same thing for poner. So poner is also a go verb. Poner changes to pongo in the yo form. If you add the opposite endings, it would be ponga, pongan. Ponga su tarea en mi escritorio. Put your homework on my desk. Pedir means to ask or to order. And so this isn't a go verb, but what happens is there's a stem changer when you conjugate it into the yo form. Do you remember what it is? What happens is the E changes to I, so you would have pido. And if I drop the O and add the opposite endings, it becomes pida or pidan. Muy bien. There are 5 verbs whose formal command forms are not formed by following the preceding steps, so note the written accents on some of these forms as well. So of course there's always irregular ones, and these are the ones that we have in the formal commands. So dar would be de in the third person singular and den in the plural. So dar means to give, so I'd be like, Deme la tarea, give me the homework, right? You can add direct pronouns as well when you do commands. Estar, esté, estén. Ir, vaya, vayan. Vaya rápido, go quickly. Vaya a la tienda, go to the store. Vaya a clase, go to class. Saber, sepa, sepan. Saber means to know information, and that means to know facts. So yo sé que español es difícil. I know that Spanish is hard. And I also could say sepa los mandatos formales. Know your formal commands, right? That's how that context would be used. And the last one of that group is ser, and that becomes sea, sean. So sea bien para tu mamá, or su mamá. Be good for your mom. So if you wanted to do it negative, to tell someone what not to do, all you have to do is put no in front of it. There's nothing more to it. No sirva la comida antes de las bebidas. Don't serve the food before the drinks. No sea mal para su mamá. Don't be bad for your mom. So the negative part is muy fácil, por lo menos, for the most part. Formal commands of the verbs that end in car, gar, and zar require an additional spelling change to maintain the original pronunciation pattern of the letters C, G, and Z, as they're pronounced in the infinitive and present tense yo forms. So buscar, busco, the car changes to CQE. So my command would be busque or busquen. Busque los huevos, find the eggs. Busque su hermana, find your sister. So buscar is to look for. So I say busque tu su hermana, look for your sister. Pagar is to pay. In the yo form, it's pago, and G changes to GU. So we would have pague or paguen. Pague la cuenta, por favor. Pay the bill, please. Almorzar is to eat lunch. And what happens with this is the Z changes to C. And look at, you have almuerzo, right? So the UE changes because that's a stem changer. So this one is almuerce, actualmente. So I should have this be a UE. So there's a lot of changes going on this one. So you would have almuerce or almuerzan. Viva. We're doing it, you guys. This is increíble. Okay, so we're going to practice some. So I'm going to go right down to the practice. And we're just kind of focusing on the culture of Cuba today too. So you can follow along with your sheet. And so vamos a practicar un poquito. No fumar los cigarros cubanos. So smoking Cuban cigars is illegal in los Estados Unidos for the most part. Anything from Cuba is illegal in the United States. And Cuban cigars are world famous. And it is very common that you will see people of all ages smoking these cigars. I was really fortunate when I went to Cuba that I got to go to a cigar factory. They had been the same since like the 1930s, and really wild to see that firsthand. They also have one of the highest rates of lung cancer, and so I'm assuming that both those things are correlated. So please always do everything in moderation. So vamos a poner el verbo fumar, which means to smoke, in the formal command. So the first thing we do, here's our verb, fumar, which means to smoke. The yo form is fumo. I drop the O, and then I add the opposite ending. So fumar, if we put it all together, would be no fume los cigarros cubanos. Don't smoke Cuban cigars. But actually, if you are going to smoke cigars, make sure it's a Cuban because they are the best in the world. Okay. Beber el cuba libre. So what I want you to do, I'm going to put third person plural if I want you to make it plural. So our verb is beber, which means to drink. Beber in the yo form is bebo. Oop. I guess I didn't change this one. So bebo. You drop the O and you get babe. The opposite ending of ER verbs is AAN. So I'd say beben al Cuba Libre. So al Cuba Libre is muy famoso. This is a very famous drink that you can find in Cuba. And it's with Cuban rum, Coca-Cola, and a bit of limon. And holy mackerel, it is definitely my favorite drink. I've never been a huge rum drinker until I had Havana Club. rum, and it is just out of sight. And there is a history I'm not going to get into today with Bacardi in Havana, and Bacardi actually came from Cuba, but they started their own business in Puerto Rico. But Havana Club is actually illegal, like all Cuban things, in the United States. You can find Havana Club in Canada and bring a bottle across the border, but you definitely have to declare it. So if you get an opportunity to go to another country, I highly suggest looking for Havana Club because it's not something that you can find here in the States. So beben al cuba libre, and cuba libre means free Cuba, as in like free the state. Okay, so now we have bailar, and bailar means to dance. The yo form is bailo. You drop the O when it's B-A-I-L. You add the opposite ending, E-E-N. Baile la salsa. Dance la salsa. So la salsa viene de Cuba. The salsa actually comes from Cuba. A lot of people believe that it comes from Mexico, but it actually originated in Cuba and made its way over to Mexico. And what the thing is that's amazing about Cuba is that it has a rich culture of music and dance, and you're hard pressed to go by any street corner where you do not hear or see music and people dancing. It's absolutely inspiring and incredible. Out of all the 21 countries I've been to, Cuba definitely ranks in the top 3, and it really surprised me just because I've always heard so many negative things about Cuba, but I think that's the importance of travel and seeing things with your own eyes and having your own experiences, because obviously under a communist regime, Cuba only lets you know what it wants to know. So it's really important to be able to go see it with your own eyes. Muy inspiración, a lot of inspiration for me. So pedir means to order. El plato nacional, la ropa vieja. So the national plate there is la ropa vieja, and that's like basically a combination of everything that you have in your fridge that you throw together. That's why it's called old clothing. It would be all of your leftovers. And so pedir in the yo form, it's that really wonky stem changer where E changes to I, is pido. You drop the O and you get pid. You add the opposite ending and you would say pida el plato nacional, la ropa viejo. So order the national plate, ropa vieja. Ooh, I already gave you the answer, so this one's a little bit easier. So ir is irregular. A la playa means to go to the beach. And I asked you to put it in the third person plural. Vayan a la playa. Cuba has some of the most amazing beaches in the Caribbean. Back in the day, in the 40s and 50s, when Americans were able to travel there, that's why they went, because it was a paradise, just right outside our back door. So Cuba is only 90 miles de los Estados Unidos. It's only 90 miles from the United States. And so it was very common that many people traveled there to this paradise because it wasn't far. And it's a beautiful, beautiful place. Now, unfortunately, you need a special visa to go there if you're going to visit. Ay, Dios mío. So visitar el Hotel Nacional. So visit the National Hotel. So you would have visite el Hotel Nacional. This hotel is amazing. Look it up online if you have a minute. It's definitely worth your time. I didn't stay here, but I did do a tour. I went to the bar here and had a drink and listened to some music. It had amazing views of the sea, and the architecture is like that of the Great Gatsby in the 1920s. That's something I also was really impressed by in Cuba, is the architecture is so grandiose and so amazing. It really just knocks your socks off. Unfortunately, a lot of it hasn't been upkept due to mismanagement in government. And so it'll be really interesting to see what happens if Cuba ever opens to the United States. Since we love to remodel and remake everything, what rules maybe they'll have to place on that. So, vamos a continuar. Traer el visa cubano en su viaje. So make sure you bring your Cuba visa on your trip. So I had a special visa to study religion, and I was studying the local religion Yoruba. And that was just basically a formality. I did still study it, but that's not really what I focused all of my attention on. But that was a way I could get into the country to spend a week there. So traer es un verbo irregular in the yo form. It's one of those go verbs. So traer in the yo form is traigo. So with that being said, how do you think you make that a formal command? Traigan el visa cubano en su viaje. Muy bien. Really important that you have your pasaporte and your visa if you want to viajar a Cuba. Okay. So traer, we have it again. No traer los productos cubanos contigo a los Estados Unidos. EEUU stands for Estados Unidos, just kind of how like we write USA. So traer changes to traigo. No traiga los productos cubanos contigo. Do not bring Cuban products back with you to the United States. Es ilegal. And so most likely they will take them from you if you have too many. So just a good point for you to know. Escuchar la reggaeton. This is third person singular. So escuchar would become escuche la reggaeton. Reggaeton is really, really popular. So I highly suggest that you check out some artists. I'm going to be putting a whole bunch of their videos in this lesson underneath so you guys can check out the reggaeton. But just so you can understand, reggaeton started in Panama in the 1970s and spread to Cuba in the early 2000s. With the release of albums like Cubanito, Soy Cubanito, the government found the entire genre with its overtly sexual lyrics vulgar and demeaning and banned it in 2012. And what happened because they banned it, reggaeton went underground and it just completely thrived in Cuba. And so they were selling their music on the streets, and they still do. And so it's really phenomenal. I put a whole article also in this lesson for you to check out about reggaeton, but it also puts in perspective about freedoms, right? They do not even have the freedom to express reggaeton because the government controls all of that. And that's what's phenomenal about travel. It allows you to see these different perspectives and how people are controlled by their governments and limited with their freedoms. So I'm usually always very grateful to have the opportunities I have here. Okay, so one of the last ones we're going to do today, no beber el agua impotable. No beba el agua impotable. And so that means do not drink the tap water. You will definitely get sick. You have to drink bottled water in Cuba. They don't have potable water yet. And potable water means clean drinking water. Okay, so hopefully you guys have a better understanding of commands. We'll definitely do more practice in it in the next module as well. Si tenga preguntas, see, I just said that. If you have questions, mándame un email. Send me an email. So that was a command. Okay, que tenga buen día y nos vemos pronto. Chao.